MediaTech Ventures Community Spotlight brought to you by Insperity, powerful HR solutions with exceptional follow-through. HR that makes a difference. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Community Spotlight. I'm your host, John Zazzaro, President, Co-founder, MediaTech Ventures, here with Yaron Zakai-Or, CEO and co-founder of Arti.tv. How are you today, good sir?
Doing great. I'm feeling really excited towards this interview. I love the energy you're igniting in the beginning. It energizes me, so that's awesome.
It is important to highlight too. It is pretty early still, U.S. versus Israel, which is where you're located. But I do want to jump right into it because I am fascinated by your technology and I love the direction of where you're going. But I want to start with you. Everybody gets inspired to go down a certain career path. There are things throughout their life that have, kind of nudged them towards a certain direction. What got you into technology at a young age, eventually playing in the AR sandbox, if you will?
This is a great question. And because I started programming when I was 13 years old. So it was like an after school activity that I participated in. And I didn't think that I'm going to be, a software engineer. I think that my parents really wanted me to be a physician, some family history stuff. And then as soon as I started programming, literally, a couple of days after I wrote my first couple of lines of code in BASIC, that was back then, the language, the software language for kids, I decided this is what I'm going to do in life. And, fast forward at the age of slightly after 20, 21 or 22, which is when you finish your army service in Israel. I got, I started thinking, what am I really going to do? And then I kind of stumbled on an ad on what back then used to be a pretty significant local company. And they did computer graphics, two-dimensional computer graphics. I looked at it and said to myself, I'm fascinated with design, although I'm really a bad designer and you don't want to see any of my drawings or my paintings. They stayed at the level that I was 12 years old. But this fascinating. I love art and I love technology. This is what I'm going to do. I studied computer science, studied mathematics, fell in love with 3D graphics. My first serious job was in that area. And since then I've done a bunch of things. I won't bore you with the details, but none of them was 3D graphics. Most of them were connected somehow to machine learning, actually. And then 2 years ago, a friend of mine who, his name is Ido Limper, he's one of the co-founders of Arti. He's a creative person. He's been doing augmented reality projects for the last 10 plus years. One of the most notable things his studio did, along with his other partner, Dror Belkin, they did the Tour de France sandbox, augmented reality sandbox, which was an Emmy nominee. And they both kind of raised the following question to Avner and to myself. Avner is our fourth co-founder, and that's it. We don't have any more. Four is great. They asked, can you make augmented reality that actually costs something that all of our customers will be able to pay with, and that they won't have a learning curve of weeks, which is what most of the current AR systems for broadcast are? And the answer was yes, of course, although I didn't know anything about, how can we actually make this thing happen. And this is how Arti started, and this is kind of my personal story weaving into Arti.
So you brushed over your background there or how you got to Arti, but by no mistake are you where you are, director of technology and enterprise engineering for Facebook, program management director for structured data at eBay, even also group program manager for Microsoft. So those are logos that most people would love to have the opportunity to be in those types of cultures and environments. Now, I'm fascinated by the idea of loving art, and you finally kind of found the convergence of the two, but it just happened to be an AR, right? And I think there's a lot of different ways that you can combine art with technology. What was it about AR that really fascinated you? And perhaps it was just the complexity of it and how to make it work and viable on a commercial viability standpoint. But what drew you into that, or was it your partners primarily that kind of started your journey down this path?
So my partners ignited my initial interest, but what really caught me is years ago, I was a computer game enthusiast. So after hours, after work, I used to play computer games. I mean, now family, etc. My kids play computer games. I don't do as much as I would love to.
I know the
And
feeling.
it's kind of, yeah, I don't have time. You know, being a startup CEO has an effect on your free time. So it's really the ability to take the experience that you're seeing in computer graphics and marry it with the real world. That's really what fascinated me with AR. I think that AR has been around for many years, but it hasn't really grown to be a major stage component of what we do in life. And now, if you look at the future, you know, people that are working on AR glasses, or you know, if you see what has been done in the field, and if you see what's being done in TV, their initial steps towards what's going to reimagine the world we live in. You know, we'll look at at a product, and we'll get its price and product information as we look into it, as we look at it, et cetera, et cetera. You know, there are going to be many use cases for AR, and that's really what fascinated me. Specifically, you know, regarding Arti, what fascinated me was the ability to do it today. So there is a huge technical challenge in doing what looks very natural here, but it's doable. Unlike if you look at all of the glasses efforts, they're still in baby steps. It still hasn't matured. It still hasn't become something that you and I can use on a daily basis. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because we know there's a lot of people, a lot of organizations that are racing towards finding solutions for the glasses part of it, right? I think arguably some of the most popular would be Microsoft HoloLens. We know that Magic Leap unfortunately pivoted and got away from consumers, B2C, but are really focusing heavily now on their enterprise tech. But we also know that our phones have always been capable. I mean, you look at Pokemon Go, you look at a lot of the other applications, QR codes have always had the processing power to be able to showcase AR experiences, right? And because we just haven't had these yet, and obviously Facebook and Apple are arguably the two that are really racing towards the consumer market, but that's still 2 to 3 years out, right? So it's what actually fascinated me the most about Arti, which we can see on our screen there floating to your left, and you said something when we first met that stuck with me, and that was that Arti is the PowerPoint of AR, and I love that. So explain to me now, first of all, how you came up with the name Arti, what that comes from. Obviously, there's AR in it, but I'm curious on the backstory on that, and why you are focused primarily on this kind of PowerPoint type of experience for users.
I'll start with the Arti name, which is an easy one. So we wanted to come up with a name. And we had, I don't remember, maybe 10 ideas. And Arti, has AR in it. It has the art in it, and it sounds cute. That's basically why we gave the Arti name. Those are not acronyms for anything. It's just, it sounded cute and, memorable. So all the things you need to have in a name. So now, when you relate to the PowerPoint or Google Slides or Keynote, whatever you love working with in order to create your presentations, the power of these tools is that everyone can work with them. You don't need to be a presentations expert or a 2D graphics expert. And when we look into the AR world, one of the things that are holding AR back, you mentioned phones. So yeah, I can lift my phone and put Pokemon here on my table, but that's a one-time thing. I cannot create really experiences. I cannot create stories, which is, at the end of the day, what you and I are doing right now, we're telling stories, and the human nature is all about telling stories. We want to tell engaging stories. AR lets us tell stories in an engaging way that hasn't been available so far. But for that, you need a content creation platform. And this is why we thought that being the PowerPoint or Google Slides of AR is truly one of the sweet spots that we need to focus on.
Now, when it comes to how do you envision, actually, let me ask you this. How do you envision, we know that Arti is starting off in a very user-friendly, focus, the way that you're building it, the way that it's been intuitively designed is very much so empowering people that I would say are probably intimidated by the idea of AR, and really enabling them to tell stories in very compelling ways, leveraging AR in a very drag and drop type of environment, right? Yep. How do you see Arti evolving as glasses become more available, or are you going to stay in your lane and really focus on your niche, or do you have plans to expand beyond the PowerPoint type of drag and drop?
So it's a very important strategic question for us. Glasses are going to become a thing. None of us know whether that's going to take a year, 2 or 3 years, or maybe more. No one knows. But what we all know is that it's going to happen. Too many people and too many brilliant people in too many brilliant companies are actually working on it. Mm-hmm. And that means it's going to happen. Like autonomous cars, again, tough to crack technology, but someone is going to make it happen. Now the question is, who's going to be the content creation tool for those environments? Mm. And you raised a very important question for us. Do we want to stay a niche solution that caters only to professional, I would say, upper mid or upper level professional video creators, which is really where we're focused now? The answer is, of course, we want to cater to a lot more, and we want to be that PowerPoint of AR that will enable you to actually get your story in front of people in multiple ways. It can be the way that we're doing today, which is on video. It can be in your glasses. Think about the experience of people coming in to a conference or even watching a conference from their house with their glasses and getting an experience that has aspects of it that are personalized to them. The imagination there can be, there's no glass ceiling to it. And I think that there's a huge opportunity there. And I think that we will be in a great position to become a major player in that space.
That's awesome. As you were saying that, I was envisioning that experience, and it's fascinating. So I'm really excited for that. And what's even more exciting is we're not that far away from it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right on too many smart people working to solve a problem. It's going to be solved. It is just a matter of time. So, and then look at VR as an example as well, right? How far we've come from needing massive computing power, cords galore, to the Oculus 2, which just connects to your Wi-Fi, right? And enables you to download stuff and play in these virtual worlds and experiences. So when people think of Arti.tv, which is the website, by the way,
Yep.
what are you hoping comes to mind for them?
3 words: affordable, easy, and everywhere. So it's something that you don't need to be a rich media house to buy. It's something that, like I'm going to do right now, in actually go and see the next slide. So it's simple. You don't need to spend time learning it. And of course, you can put it everywhere. You don't need to have any specific hardware. You don't need to have a sophisticated setup, just a camera and a laptop, and that's it.
What does how do you decide, right? Because obviously these are these drag and drop environments, although they're extremely easy to use, right? Enabling the user to be able to create compelling stories and pieces of content. It is also somewhat restrictive, right? In that you're kind of bound somewhat to what's there and available at your fingertips. How do you decide as a company what those available templates are, and how how robust in continuing developing those templates? What does that look like in the future?
So one of our key differentiators as a company is the fact that we're 4 co-founders. Half of the co-founding team is our creative people. So Ido and Dror that have together a couple of dozens of years in the broadcast industry and in the B2B industry on the video side. They have tons of experience. They actually knew what's the MVP while we were kind of thinking what is the MVP. So they predicted what our customers are going to ask from us way before our customers did that. And we're basically following up on their experience and making sure that the set of templates that we have will cover the basics. So that's step number 1. Of course, then you have to listen to customers, and what we get from customers are requests. Can you do this, or can you do that? One small example is, can you play a video in a 3D phone, which is a recording of the screen? And that was a request for a new template. We looked at it and said many people would probably want to do it. It enables you to show your Twitter feed. It enables you to show, if you're selling an application, you can show the application next to you, and people can actually see what's happening on the screen. So it's a combination of, we had a very good initial set of templates, and then we're listening to our customer requirements and looking at what our customers do. Those are creative people. We learn from them and then generalize that and create new features.
That's fascinating. You said something earlier that is what every investor wants to hear, by the way. Affordable, easy to use, and everywhere. So those were for the investors watching. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Who are some of the people that inspire you? Everybody has, books that they read, that they go back to, podcasts that they listen to, peers or people they look up to in their industry. Who in what do those sources look like for you?
So I'll start with it's a cliche, I know, but from a product experience and as an entrepreneur, especially in his second round in Apple, Steve Jobs, definitely. I mean, I look at what he did there, and it's just phenomenal. If I can do, a small fraction of what he achieved, that's going to be incredible. So that's one inspiration as a product person. Then I'm following another, I would say, more recent experience when thinking about how to manage a company and how to make people improve the way they do things on an ongoing basis. I follow Carol Dweck. Carol is a professor of psychology in Stanford, and she wrote the book Mindset, which really talks about embrace failure. Put failure as something that you actually see as part of the experience, that you understand I'm going to fail in part of what I'm doing, and that's totally fine because that's going to be a learning experience for me, and I'm going to improve myself, and I'm going to do some of the things I'm used to get done in a very different way, and therefore create a better me on an ongoing basis. Now, that leads me into, when you look at the way people think about agile development, but in a very deep way. So agile development has been kind of been the thing in the past almost 20 years, but it has been a process in a shallow manner for many people. When you combine it with the mindset theory that Carol Dweck has developed, then you get something really deep. You get something that you improve not just yourself, but you improve the way your company works, your team works on an ongoing basis. That's kind of, the two key people that I'm thinking about are these two.
That's awesome. I mean, Steve Jobs is, I think everybody, if we were 1% of the company that Apple is, we'd be a $10 billion company, right? So can't argue with that. And so when you are thinking about the enterprise as well as how do you balance enterprise and consumer needs when it comes to Arti's capabilities? Or because again, to me, or you just focused, is it focused just on the idea of improving content? And that's and we know that obviously there's enterprise considerations and there's consumer considerations for that. Is that what you're focused on, or are you looking at this as well? How do we make this more B2B as well as B2C?
So we're very focused on being a B2B company these days. I think that still today, getting people to really, the consumer to adopt a technology like this, they're not, I wouldn't even talk about the technical challenges. of using this. There is that simple challenge of I need to have a camera that is on a tripod, that is connected to a PC, et cetera, et cetera. Like the basic setup is something that most likely you need to be a prosumer video creator at least. So I think that the minimum, in terms of people that will be able to use it are individual video creators that, create some stuff for YouTube, Facebook Live, or Instagram, but not the standard consumer. That's at least for now. I think that the ability for the consumer to actually enjoy this is going to be once there will be glasses outside. And then, it's going to be the consumer actually using this in terms of they seeing presentations that someone else did. You do need to have a little bit of, an aesthetic mindset, and a little bit knowledge of how things move in 3D in order to get these things done today. We might surprise ourselves a couple of years from now, but that's still, on the longer term roadmap, not for the short to mid-term.
I know that you can control the images from your phone. Is there any, when it comes to AR, I think one of the things that is most exciting about it is this idea of being able to use my hands to interact with the images and my surrounding, right? Is that a capability on the roadmap for Arti to be able to either swipe the images with your hands, right? I'm thinking more, that kind of futuristic lab with all the floating stuff in front of me, right? Is that a thing, or is this always going to be kind of powered by the capabilities from the processing power of the phone and not using my hands to change stuff in real time?
I do strongly believe that one of the things that we should do, probably even next year, is to start working on some hand gesture recognition and interaction. Like probably the most intuitive thing is next slide, or some sort of a hint that would tell the software that it needs to swipe to the next slide. That's going to be a great way of helping presenters have even a more natural interaction with their own presentation. Of course, what I'd love to do is the ability to actually, take a 3D object and move it. We do have something like that. We'll actually do a quick pause at the end of the presentation, and I'll show you, how we can actually control some of the stuff using hands, but it's very limited. We are going to work on it next year.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see that at the end of the presentation. We're coming up on time anyway, so we're gonna get over to that piece of the segment here in a minute. I asked this question to everybody because I'm always fascinated by the answers. If you had a superhero power, what would it be?
It's a tough one. I think that it's going to sound really weird. I'd like to be an ML whiz kid. That's my true passion, and I've been working with top-notch machine learning or data scientists, and I would love to be as good as the best people I worked with. That's the superpower I would love to have.
So you'd like to be as good, or you'd like to be just the best in the world, right? Like,
the best in the world, of course.
Okay, good. Just making sure, right? If we're gonna have superhero powers, we need to be better than every. You know what I mean? Like otherwise, it's not a superhero power. If we're just as good.
Oh yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I was a bit too humble.
Yeah, I love it though. Like I've had some humbling answers for sure, and I've had ones that really fascinated me as well, that were outside of the box that I would have never thought about. How do people get a hold of you now? I mean, Arti arti.tv is the website.
Yep.
You know, are you guys all over social media? And how do they reach out to you directly if they want to learn more about the product and obviously become a user like MediaTech Ventures is going to be very shortly?
So in order to get hold of the company, contact at arti.tv or contact us on any of our social outlets. We're very responsive there. In order to contact me personally, just look for Yaron Zakai-Or on LinkedIn, reach out to me on messaging, and I'll respond to you within the next day or so. So I'm pretty responsive there.
Excellent. Well, that kind of wraps up our interview portion. I know you mentioned wanting to showcase some more technology. Let's do that before we call it. Look at that. It's a bonfire. That's awesome. And there's
just a second, and it's going to be even more exciting.
Incredible. That's awesome. Fantastic. All right, good sir. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for taking the time today out of your very busy, innovative schedule. Again, thank you to our partners Insperity for helping us make these interviews happen and possible. We do look forward to having you all join us for all the community spotlights we have, highlighting some of the most innovative people in the MediaTech community. Reach out to arti.tv, use their tech, get away from the mundane videos that everybody else is making, and upgrade your video content creation strategy today. Thank you, good sir, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.